This is definitely very much needed, and I believe that your stepping into this space has been met with a groundswell of support, and I look forward to council adding their voices in supporting this measure by extending the state of emergency. I will just, for the most obvious reasons, say that the state of emergency is not our sudden awareness that we have a housing crisis in our community. It is to avoid delaying the opening of the shelter because we do not yet have zoning approval. So your actions are basically approving that extended emergency such that we do not have to go through the traditional protocol, which will delay the opening.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sirachi. I would invite Ms. Nauman, if you would come up to the podium for just a moment. And as you approach, just make sure that mic is green. You see the light there? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here this evening. I want to allow council to ask questions and make comment, but I wanted to thank you for coming tonight. And if you could just give us a very brief overview of kind of how Tenfold got to this point and are ready to step in, and what measures are in place to allow you to do that today.
Sure. Well, the beautiful thing about our space is that it was formerly the Eastern Market, and prior to that, it served as a lot of different things, but it's sprinklered. So that was sort of the key reason that it met the health and, basic health and safety standards for the city with some adjustments that we needed to make. So we secured a commercial heating system. We were able to work with our partners and secure beds. We'll be paying for bedding, and we'll be paying for security staff, and then we're looking for volunteers from the community. So we feel like our staffing is set for the first 2 weeks at least, and we'll keep filling those slots. But we have never done low barrier before, so we do not have a playbook. We're, worked with a lot of our partners and their best practices, and just the reaction from the community has been that, happy that we're stepping into this space so that there is that bridge until Clay Street opens. We've also reached out to the Y to make sure that as they're onboarding their staff, we'd love to have them there to get familiar with the population, so that the ramp up to Clay Street can be smooth and hopefully quick, because 80 beds, going from 0 to 80 would be challenging. So, and everyone's been very cooperative, so thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. Any comments from members of council? Councilor Hirsch.
Hey, John.
Just want to express my gratitude to Tenfold for stepping into the breach here. I really appreciate it. It's going to be an all hands on deck effort from all of us in the community to take care of our own house neighbors. So I just want to express my thanks and just ask, is there anything else that the community can do to support you right now? You mentioned volunteers.
Volunteers, we'll have some in-kind requests for cold weather gear, things to make people more comfortable while they're with us. Happy to be able to share that we feel like we've closed the funding gap. We'll be letting people know that as early as tomorrow. So we don't feel like we're going to need to ask for additional funding. There's so many awesome nonprofits here tonight. We certainly do not want to drive donations at this critical time away from our other nonprofit partners. So, to be able to say you're fully funded within a week is pretty spectacular, and I think just speaks to how extraordinary this community is. So, yeah, thanks, John.
That's excellent news. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilor Craig, and then Councilor Diaz.
So you mentioned volunteers. Can you be a little more specific about what kind of volunteerism you're going to be looking for?
Sure. So in the evening, we're doing intake from 7:30 until about 9:30. Lights out will be 10. So we have volunteer shifts from 7 to 10. Those folks will really be hosting the folks that are coming into shelter, helping them get settled, showing them where everything is. And then in the morning, we have volunteer shifts from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., which is when, people are heading out for the day. So helping them, get their their things together, if they need, some food or supplies to be out for the day. Unfortunately, we're not, we're just an overnight shelter. And then they'll be stripping beds and kind of getting the space ready for that night.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilor Diaz.
I just had a question regarding, like restrooms and showers. Is that something that has been already, applied?
We have 2 handicapped accessible porta potties, 2 additional porta potties, 2 hand washing stations, and then we'll use the, somebody help me, the refresh shower trailer, thank you, collaborate with them. And I mean, Anchor does a great job with that, Anchor Lancaster. No matter how long it takes, they typically try to serve everyone that's there. So we'll direct people to that.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. We'll open this up to any comments from the public on the resolution to extend the emergency declaration. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Minnick. I'm sorry. Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese. Aye. Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch. President Baker.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is the only item on our special meeting agenda, so procedurally, we do need a motion to adjourn that meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned for that one, but we're going to go right into our next one. So stay tuned. All right, I'll now call to order this meeting of council committee meetings for November 4th, 2024. Mr. Harris, would you please call the roll of members of this meeting?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Minnick. Mr. Roy.
Here.
Mr. Cleese.
Here.
Ms. Gregg.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Mr. Hirsch.
Here.
President Baker.
Here. Thank you. Councilor Ahmed is also excused from this meeting. A couple of reminders for the folks here with us this evening. This is a good time to silence your phones and other devices if you haven't done so already. This meeting and its participants are being recorded. Tonight, these are meetings of council committees. There are no general public comment periods during this meeting. However, committee chairs will call for comments from the public for specific agenda items that they have in front of them. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker and must begin with your name for the meeting record, name and block of residence for the meeting record. Our next regular meeting of council will be on November 12th. We will begin with the approval of the October 1st, 2024 and the October 12th, 2024 committee meeting minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
A motion and a second on the meeting minutes. Any comments on them? I just want to thank Mr. Harris for compiling those minutes from our special finance hearing. I know that they're lengthy. Hearing no comments on the minutes, Mr. Harris, if you would, please take the roll.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese. Aye. Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch. President Baker.
Aye. Thank you. All right, we'll begin with the Personnel Committee this evening. Councilor Khalid.
Thank you, Madam President. The Personnel Committee has on the agenda for tonight 6 items. The first item is the nomination of Sharon Allen Spann for appointment to the Lancaster City Housing Authority.
Sharon here this evening.
And I'm sorry, Sharon was not able to be here this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris. So Sharon will be asked to attend the next meeting so she can share her thoughts about her nomination. Is there any comments or questions for the member of the committee? From council? So I'll make a motion to move this nomination to our next council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the next item is the nomination of Kelsey Kemen for appointment to the Downtown Investment District Authority. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight and thank you for your willingness to serve. Would you please introduce yourself to council and tell us why you want to serve on the board.
Sure. Kelsey Kamen. I live on the 300 block of West Orange Street. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to join the Downtown Investment District. I've lived in Lancaster for over 10 years, and I love the direction that it's going, and I'd love to continue to participate and be involved in beautifying and continuing to make it a vital and vibrant city.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from other members of the committee? From council? Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Now I'll make a motion to move this nomination to our next council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the next item is the nomination of Terry Booker for reappointment to the Downtown Investment District Authority. Good evening, Mr. Booker. Thank you for being here tonight. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us why you want to continue to serve on the board?
Yes, hello, my name is Ted Boucard, and I live on the 700 block of East Chestnut Street. As some of you know, I have a vested interest in downtown. I've been on the board for about 2 years now. I'm moving into more responsibility into my role. I'm looking to just continue my vested interest downtown, looking into making the city as safe as possible, as well as bringing more entrepreneurship downtown, as well as just showcasing the DID.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments from members of the committee? From council? Please, Madam President, go ahead.
I recall that this is a reappointment, so we don't always get folks in front, but I want to thank you for continuing to serve. I know that you filled a vacancy on your last time that you were here in front of us. So thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Are there any other comments from council? From the public? Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
I'll make a motion to move this nomination to our next council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the next item is the nomination of Michelle Kane for reappointment to the Lancaster City Housing Authority. It's the reappointment. I think Ms. Kane is not here tonight. So are there any comments or questions from other members of the committee and from council? I'll make a motion to move this nomination to our next council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the next item is the nomination for the appointment of Constantine Mendros to the Traffic Commission. And Mr. Mendros is not here tonight because it's a reappointment. He has been serving on the board for quite some time. Are there any questions or comments about this nomination from council and other members of the committee?
Mr. Mandros brings a lot of experience with him to that, so he's been on that board for a while, yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Hirsch, for your comments. Are there any other comments from council? Well, I'll make a motion to move this nomination to our next council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The last item on the agenda for tonight is the nomination of Ben Ford for reappointment to the Lancaster Industrial Development Authority. Mr. Ben Ford is not here tonight, and are there any questions or comments from council and other members of the committee regarding this nomination? So I'll make a motion to move this nomination to our next council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes the personal committee, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Councilor Claes. Our next item is public safety. I'll turn that over to Councilor Diaz.
Thank you, President. Right now, we have the Administration Resolution 84-2024, which is approving City of Lancaster Emergency Operation Plan, and establishes principles of Lancaster Emergency Management Program, the guidelines city government is organizing and acting to protect the lives and property during the emergency disasters, covers policy and procedures for managing all hazard events, including natural disasters, accidents, terrorist, or significant criminal incidents. The scope includes pre-incident preparedness, preparation, and migration, responses and recovery activities applicable to all organizations acting on behalf of the city, consistent with state and national emergency management status, plans, systems, and principles. Services as foundation plan to activity and excluding hazardous, specific, and foundation plans. It outlines borders, concepts, and organizational structures, general rules and regulation, hazard-specific foundation plans, details with agency roles and responsibility, operational strategies, resources, abilities, and detailed procedures. And I do have one of the fire department here that could answer questions unless the mayor would like to add to that.
I'd like to introduce Deputy Chief Chris DeLong, who is our Emergency Operations Coordinator, who has put a lot of effort into updating this Emergency Operations Plan. I think Deputy Chief DeLong can talk a little bit about the iteration from the last one to this one and the refinements that we've made over the last year, just briefly. And also, I just want to thank Deputy Chief for his assistance in helping to stand up the emergency shelter that you all just approved the extended declaration for. He was part of helping to assist related to the heating and making sure that we can get to amass the other resources that were needed to assist. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much, Chris.
Good evening, Council. I'm really happy to stand before you after a very thorough collaborative effort over the last 16 months. I had a chance to speak to executive leadership team, city leadership team, the mayor, and a lot of stakeholders in the community to make the revisions that are before you tonight, to learn from some shortcomings in the past and to build upon some of the foundational concepts that we were able to ensure for the city and its citizens. Some of the things that are big tickets in the revision are we took out some items of the plan that need more frequent revisions so that we're constantly learning how to work the system and provide for the citizens and the community. We want to make sure that when those areas need to be revised, they're revised now and not every 5 years. Other parts of the plan we just cleaned up. It's closer to how we operate day to day. We're bringing in some national approved concepts, and it's better organized, it's better visually appealing, it sets up some better framework for us for how to mitigate emergencies. One of the bigger things that we went through was how do we activate the plan? How do we notify and how do we activate the plan so we can reduce the effects? So that was a big ticket in the revised plan, and we're really happy with the content. Any questions? Sorry.
Any questions from the committee?
Deputy Chief DeLong, just want to say thank you so much for your work on this. Read it, and it's one of those things that emergencies aren't something we want to think about, but to have a plan, we have to have a plan. So appreciate all your hard work on this.
Thank you.
Any questions from full council?
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Deputy Chief DeLong, thank you for being here tonight. I'm just curious, you said these revisions were made over the course of 16 months. Can you talk a little bit about who was brought in on those revisions, and then also perhaps how much some of the recent events over the last 12 months in the city may have played a part in the need for these revisions?
Sure. I spoke briefly about the collaborative effort that we put together. So one of the first things I was able to do after taking on this role was to build a emergency management planning team in the city, and we brought together all the bureaus and departments to kind of see what the revisions needed to be and kind of lean on some of the past events so that we could craft necessary revisions. To my knowledge, the emergency operations plan had not been revised to this point, to this length in quite a few years. So it needed some new eyes. Over the last, I'll call it 16 months, we've had some incidents, and we've learned from every single one of them. And there's bits and pieces in this plan from every piece of that, and beyond. I made sure that I was able to pull from a lot of experience well before my time to make sure that some of the larger events that we've had to assist in were captured in the improvements.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? I'd like to make a motion then to move this to our next city council meeting on November 12th.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's all I have for Safety Committee.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. We'll move to Finance Committee. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. We have one administration resolution today, number 85, 2024, authorizing a financing project of the Lancaster Municipal Authority on behalf of Luther Care. I would ask if we had a representative from Luther Care here tonight.
Hi, my name is, my name is Aaron Hollis. I am solicitor for Lancaster Municipal Authority. Lancaster Municipal Authority has approved, tax-exempt bond financing for Luther Care in the amount of $41,800,000. This is a refinance. These are, if you're familiar with these bonds, these are not an obligation of Lancaster Municipal Authority. It's more of a pass-through bond for tax-exempt financing. We also have representatives of Luther Care if you do have questions or would like more information about the project.
Okay. Thank you. And I believe there was a project similar to this that was brought before council previously.
Correct. Yes.
Any questions from the committee or council as a whole? Council President.
Just on Councilor Arroyo, thank you. This is a refinance. Can you remind council when this was originally brought up? If you know the original date of the financing?
Mr. Frederick, counsel for Luther Care may remember.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sean Frederick from Barley Snyder. I believe it was 2019 was the last financing, and this is a refinancing of that debt.
Great, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Councilor Delis?
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. Could you please tell us a little bit about the timeline of the project?
This is a refinance. Sean, do you know when we are closing? I think it's end of December. Is that correct?
Yes. So we're looking to close the financing late December. It's just a refinancing, so there's no construction, no other renovations. It's a refinancing.
So there isn't anything new regarding the timeline, right?
There's no, the timeline from here is for approval is then to issue the bonds in late December. That's the timeline.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo.
Any additional questions or comments from council? From the public? A motion to move administration resolution number 85, 2024 to full council.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That concludes the Finance Committee, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. We'll now move to the Community Planning Committee. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. We have 11 items on the agenda this evening. And the first ones are going to be, do we need to, can we do the historical recommendations together?
Rely on our parliamentarian, Mr. Harris. We can take those together to move them to the next meeting. Is that correct?
We could. It would actually be clearer for the paper record where we deal with them individually.
I think we could probably address them all at once, but we will need to make separate motions for each one.
Fine. Okay, so the first items on the agenda are review of the historical commissions for 439 West King Street, 229 West Lemon, and 234 West Orange Street. 439 West King Street is the demolition of a one-story frame garage facing West Branch Street to enlarge a rear surface parking lot. 229 West Lemon Street, Boys and Girls Club of Lancaster, to demolish a modern covered entry porch to be replaced by a new entry steps and accessible ramp. 234 West Orange Street, Union Community Care, is requesting to remove an elevated concrete parking deck on the south end of the parcel to reconfigure surface parking. Remove a brick elevator penthouse to allow new overbuild construction. This application also includes 3 new construction items. Construction of a new second-story level on the west elevation, construction of a masonry overbuild on the east elevation, and an extension of an elevator shaft to access the 3rd floor level. Well, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm well. Thank you for
Yes.
giving my whole speech for me.
I didn't want to give you a whole speech.
Good evening. I am Steve Funk. I am Vice Chair of the Historical Commission. I live in the 600 block of High Street. I'll address 439 West King Street first. As Councilwoman Craig outlined, this is demolition of a one-story frame garage. It was determined by the Historical Commission that this was not a contributing building to the historic district, and that its demolition would not adversely affect the character of the historic district or damage any historic buildings in the neighborhood. This was recommended by City Council by the Historical Commission for the City Council to issue a certificate of appropriateness for demolition. The owner has agreed to salvage the wood siding on the garage for potential reuse. So that's always encouraged if historic materials can be reused rather than ending up in a landfill. The second item was 229 West Lemon Street. For this project, I'm representing the architectural firm that did the design, so I had to recuse myself as vice chair of the Historical Commission as I presented this project to the commission. This is simply a provision of better handicapped accessibility to the building. It's demolition of an existing porch that includes steps, a roof, and a non-functioning platform lift for handicapped accessibility. It's been a maintenance problem for years, hasn't worked for some time. It's being removed, and due to the configuration of the new ramp, the landing at the top of the stairs became much smaller than the existing porch and roof, so it was determined that the best solution for that was to remove everything and just provide a ramp and stairs. That again was recommended by the commission for City Council to issue a certificate of appropriateness for demolition. The last one is 234 West Orange Street. This was for demolition of 2 small portions of the existing building, neither of which were character defining, and their demolition would allow for redevelopment of the building. So again, it was determined that this was an appropriate intervention for this building, and the Historical Commission recommended that City Council approve demolition.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Then,
Not on the committee, but I do have something. I want to highlight that the 229 West Lemon Street project you mentioned is the Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
And the part of that project was part of what the Boys and Girls Club were awarded our community project funds for ARPA. It was, part of that was to increase the accessibility of the building. So this is that project. Just wanted to highlight that.
Okay.
Thank you.
excellent.
And this project at this particular clubhouse is just one of 3 clubhouses that are being renovated as part of that overall funding.
That's right.
So,
Thank you.
Great. Are there any questions from council as a whole? No? Then I will make the first motion to move, review of the Historical Commission recommendation 439 West King Street to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And then the review of the Historical Commission recommendation for 229 West Lemon Street for full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And also the recommendation for the Historical Commission recommendation for 234 West Orange Street to full council on, I'll make a motion to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda this evening is Administration Resolution Number 75, amending the official sewage facilities plan to include Price Elementary School project. And, well, hello.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Excellent.
I just thought I would take this opportunity to provide a couple of updates regarding the Price project. SDOL is working with ELA Group on the plan to build a new updated Price Elementary School. It's going to have capacity to grow and accommodate the southeast residential neighborhood around Brandon Park. The plan has just been through sketch plan review, which means that it's had its initial review by city staff. In addition to the sewer module that resulted in the resolution before you, the plan has been reviewed by planning, zoning, stormwater, urban forestry, engineering, water, fire, and public art. The next time we come before you, which will be early in the new year, it will be regarding a text amendment for the land use zoning, and that legislation is currently making its way through the process and is currently in the hands of the Lancaster County Planning Commission.
Spectacular, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee regarding this item? And I'm going to assume this is that the sewage plan has approved capacity?
Correct.
Okay, I'll make a motion to move this to full council, resolution number 75, 2024, to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next items on the agenda are authorizing application for local shares accounts. There are several of them. So what I would like to do is, if Director Campbell, Tina Campbell, could come and give us just a brief overview on what local shares are and how they work.
Good evening. So the local shares accounts are grant applications that are done through the Department of Community and Economic Development with the state. And so it is state funding, but the applications need to go through a municipality. And so we serve as the grantee for these, or submit the applications in, and then the organizations would be the sub-grantees if they're awarded through the state. So we do not make decisions on the grants. They simply run through the city as the municipality.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I need, thank you.
Perfect.
So what we'll do is hear from everyone that is going through the application process. So, Administration Resolution Number 676, authorizing the application to local shares account program by Chestnut Housing. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chad Martin, Executive Director of Chestnut Housing. Appreciate you all taking time for this important agenda item this evening. I want to additionally thank you for the work you all did to approve local share account applications last year. Chestnut Housing is one of the organizations that was awarded a $250,000 grant from the previous year's application for our Milburn Apartments development on Rockland Street in the city. So super grateful for that. Our application this year will be for our Dinah's Hill Apartments development, which is the adaptive reuse, mixed-use redevelopment of the former Strawberry Hill restaurant properties in the city's SOE neighborhood. I imagine all of you are familiar with that intersection and perhaps have dined at the former Strawberry Hill restaurant or its predecessor, Obie's Steakhouse, if you've really been around Lancaster a long time. These buildings have been vacant for about a decade or so and were acquired by the city's Land Bank Authority, who then put out a public RFP process for interested parties to acquire the properties. So we were awarded that site control in February from the Land Bank Authority to proceed with this kind of plan and moving forward with purchasing them. So we're very excited to do that. It will be a complicated project. These are historic buildings with a lot of improvements needed to make them fully usable again. Our plan calls for, it's a $3.8 million project calling for two primary uses in the facility, a commercial office hub kind of at that corner entrance that was the main entrance to the restaurant previously. That will become our headquarters as an organization, and we will also have some office space available for lease, hopefully to the SOE Neighborhood Initiative to share space with us there, and some meeting space that's available for use by the community. And then the remainder of the facility, which is 3 buildings that are kind of this like cobbled together arrangement of 3 buildings on the corner there. The remainder will be about 10,000 square feet of space dedicated to affordable housing. So the current plans call for 11 apartments to be developed there, ranging from efficiency apartments up to 2-bedroom apartments. And we will be looking to serve a variety of very low-income households there. Some apartments will be restricted to households living at or below 50% of our area median income in Lancaster County, and some will be reserved for folks living at 30% or below of area median income. I think that's about everything. We last week got zoning approval to move forward with this plan. So at this point, we're simply working on cobbling together $4 million to make it happen. So appreciate your interest and support of that effort.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the committee?
If I may, Councilor Craig. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Martin. You answered one question regarding the budget, and sorry if I missed it, but the timeline for the completion of it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we plan to use the next 12 to 18 months to work on financing and finalizing plans for the project and to queue it up to be ready for construction. I would imagine then an additional 12 months of construction beginning at that point. So if all goes well and money comes together, we'll start construction in about a year, year and a half, and then hopefully wrap up toward the end of 2026.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Craig, thank you. You mentioned that you applied and were successfully granted funds from last year's round of local shares. That was just in our inbox the other day. Is that correct? That's the timeline that we're talking about. So I think it's helpful to mention that, these applications are going out and, they go through the process, and here we are a year later being awarded the funds. And I think it's worth just pointing out to all members of council and everyone who's listening that that's how long it takes to, like you said, cobble together the funding for these projects. What other sources of funding are you looking for, seeking for this particular project?
Yeah, thank you for those comments. The LSA program, we are super grateful to get money with it. It is also a bit mysterious and takes a long time. So I imagine others in the room feel the same way. For this project, We have a list of about 11 sources we're seeking for this, but the primary ones include other public sources, including the FAIR program and the Community Revitalization Fund program. Those are both administered by PHFA, so also state sources. Home funding, which is administered both by the City of Lancaster and the Lancaster County Housing and Redevelopment Authorities. And then also a pretty significant private source for us is the High Foundation. So we imagine if all those come together the way we hope, that might be about something like 70 to 80% of the project, and then the rest from some additional sources, including we have a deep donor base. I imagine about 10% of this project will come from kind of small dollar donations from our donor base.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any further questions from council as a whole?
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to move resolution number 76, authorizing loan application to local shares account program by Chestnut Housing to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is going to be administration resolution number 77, authorizing application to local shares account program by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. Good evening.
Good evening. Pam Smith, Vice President of College Advancement for Thaddeus Stevens, joined by my colleague Jenny Gurman, who's the Executive Director of the Foundation for the College. It's a joint effort that we do for the Stevens Student Home Construction Project. Very grateful for this opportunity to be part of the application process for LSA. We've heard about the mysterious funds, so we know what we're getting into. And also just want to thank the city offices for the new process for the letter of intent this year. That was really helpful for us to organize ourselves, but also I think for the city's approach at how to, ensure that there's a plan that's aligned for all the folks that are applying and the projects that are happening. So the funds that we're requesting are related to our student home construction project specifically that's at the previous Shell recycling location, which is across the street from our Griner Advanced Manufacturing Center over on Stevens Avenue. That project has 4 total years of student house builds that's happening there. One we just completed. If you want to see, you can peruse that at your leisure if you're in the neighborhood. We have 3 more duplexes that we're building as part of that project. And the funds we're requesting here are specifically for the road that's associated with those homes. So access to those 4 houses. And in addition, the front portion of that property is in the process to be developed by the South End Concerned Neighbors for the proposed fresh food market and affordable housing apartments that are there. So overall, we're looking to apply the funds for the infrastructure costs associated with that. And the timeline works for us specifically because, as I had mentioned, we have 3 years left of builds there that will pick back up next academic year. So these funds would align around the same time that road would be needed to have access both to the homes and the project with the South End Concerned Neighbors. Those homes specifically over there, if you're not familiar, look to address specifically the housing crisis, in Lancaster City, making sure that we have affordable units for folks who need them. Affordability for us means selling the units to owner occupiers that have incomes below 80% of the Lancaster County area median income. We're looking to obviously strengthen the workforce by training our students with the practical skills that are building there. And in addition, you heard tonight from Shelby at Tenfold. Tenfold's one of our partners associated with this project. So potential buyers will come from their program that looks at first-time home buyers. And they have the support of the services from Tenfold. And that they'll connect up with our realtor, and when those homes go on the market, they'll have the support both of Tenfold and the process that we're involved in with that. So we're really excited about that partnership. This is our first time doing affordable housing as part of the student home construction project. So the estimated cost of the total project, just specific to the college's portion of building the homes, is approximately $4 to $6 million. That varies depending on construction material cost. In addition to that, there's additional, obviously, with the South End Concerned Neighbors portion of that, the price tag goes up on that, but we'll just speak tonight to our portion of that. And that's about a $1 to $1.5 million cost per duplex when you factor in all of the staff and construction costs and students and everything going into that. And again, our costs that we're putting in for the proposal of this will offset infrastructure and construction for that road specifically. I think, unless you have other questions, I'll leave it there.
Are there any questions from the committee? No? Any questions from council as a whole? Questions from the public? Thank you.
Hi, Tim.
Tim Stulder, 1 United Lancaster. What is the project cost for the road, and is that included in the $4 to $6 million?
Sure, great question. So the initial projected cost from that is approximately $500,000. That was the initial estimate that we received. That estimate is approximately now probably almost a year and a half old, so we'll get some additional costs associated with that, and that came from our engineering firm when we first did the design for the infrastructure work with the sidewalks and the curbing and all of that. So, Jen, you want to add to that?
Sorry, can I also interject that that was not subject to prevailing wage? Were we to be a recipient of these funds, it would likely be, those funds would make us, or that would create the opportunity for us to secure prevailing wage job, and so the price tag will be significantly higher.
Approximately doubles the price tag when you do that.
Part of the 46?
Yes. Oh, part of the 4 to 6 estimate? Yes.
Thank you. No further questions from council as a whole?
Thank you.
Then I'll make a motion to move a resolution 77 to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we will move on to Administration Resolution Number 78, 2024, authorizing application to local shares account program by Community Action Partnership. That was a whole lot.
Good evening, Arelis Perez. I'm the Vice President of Economic Empowerment at CAP, and I'm here with my colleague, John McCowan. He's our Chief Business Officer at CAP. So tonight we're here to talk about our domestic violence bridge house project that we are looking to continue some much needed repairs and upgrades through this funding opportunity. So Bridge House is located on the west end of the city. It is a 10-unit transitional housing building for survivors of domestic violence and their children. We've actually started much-needed repairs over the last year or so using some funding from ARPA and High Foundation. Some of the things we've been able to complete up until now is a complete repointing of our building. We've installed HVAC windows. We've updated all the kitchens, or we're going to update all the kitchens in every apartment, and we're also going to install a laundry facility. So this last piece of funding that we're looking for is really going to see the rest of our project through. Some of the things that we would like to tackle is more security measures, internal and externally, a new elevator, replacing the entire roof, and continuing to do updates throughout the building, such as removing carpet, installing vinyl plank flooring, building some good offices for our staff to be able to connect our survivors to much needed services, in a comprehensive playroom. Did I miss anything? Is that good?
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Any questions from council as a whole?
Thank you, Councilor Craig. You mentioned that this is part of a larger project that you also received ARPA funding for. Can you talk about the budget for this project, the total cost, and just the total cost of the project.
Yeah, I'm going to transition that to John.
Okay, yes, right now we're projecting up to $1 million. We're getting quotes now on a lot of the projects, including the elevator replacement, the new roof, the indoor painting of the entire building, flooring, as you mentioned, and some safety issues externally, like external lighting, as well as a lot of the concrete work needs to be done. So we're still in the process. We've got about half of the quotes, but we're still collecting the others.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from council as a whole? Questions from the public?
Tim Studer, One United Lancaster. It sounded from the answer that that is the future work for which local shares account is being requested, but also including the work being done up to now. What is the total renovation cost?
Could you repeat that? I'm not sure I understood.
What have we put into the building
What have
so
you put
far?
in so
With
far?
ARPA
What is
high?
the total of?
As far as the ARPA funding, we had $400,000, which covered the repointing of the brick exterior, the entire building, as well as it's going to cover, which the project's going to be starting here soon, to replace 113 windows, which are, basically rotting because they're wooden. And then we did install 8 HVAC units. So that was the ARPA fund. And then we have about 168,000 of the high grant we're currently using. We've already replaced appliances, ovens, as well as refrigerators in all the apartments. And we're also doing the cabinetry and laundry, a new laundry room, as well as the laundry appliances.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to move resolution number 78 to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is administration resolution number 79, authorizing application to the local shares account program by Lancaster Recreation Commission.
Hello, nice to see you all again. Hi. So I won't go into too much detail about the overall project because I've presented this before. Thank you again for the opportunity to present for the local shares this year. We were receiving the 2023 local shares as well too. To give you an update on where we are at the project, we're at the exciting part now. So we invite you to imagine with us the opportunity for what this space can be for the community. We of course are planning for the childcare resources of about 200 early childhood education spots that will be added at 14 classrooms and an additional about 300 school-age care spots in about 8 or 9 classrooms in the space. But now we're also looking to the other recreational facilities like the senior center, the STEM lab, the art room, the music space, and some of the other general community spaces that we'll have. The cost has increased of our overall project. When I was here last year, I shared that the anticipated cost was $8 to $10 million. This updated assessment that's provided with what information I gave you is just about around $12 million. Part of that reason is asbestos abatement, an addition of a new roof, external panels on the building, as well as adding a fire suppression system. So those are all parts of the project that will be coming up that we'll be using our 2023 allocation for, and we're really looking to the 2024 application to building out some of the more exciting spaces in the building.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Questions from council as a whole?
Councilor Craig, if I may. Thank you, Heather, for the presentation. Just a question around timeline. Has the timeline shifted? Budget has shifted a little bit. Has the timeline shifted?
Sure. So we still intend to move forward with asbestos abatement at the end of this calendar year. We need to stay on track because our building is planned to be demolished in summer of 2025. So we want to make sure that we're staying on that timeline. Construction is planned to start in early 2025, and the goal is to make enough space in the building for us to be able to move most of our critical programs over to the space. We might not be able to move all of our staff, but we'll have space for some of our most important programs there, with the goal to get everybody in by the end of 25. And we'll be going through construction through 26 and maybe 27 at this point.
Thank you.
questions from the public? Nope.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to move resolution, Administration Resolution 79 to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is Administration Resolution number 80, authorizing application for local shares account program by Regenerative Nexus Rambling.
Hi, folks. I'm Max Zonizer, Executive Director of Nexus, partner in 7 Group and the Ramboland Project Lead. Also a Burroughs, Lincoln, and McCaskey alumnus, having grown up on the East End. I wrote my notes because otherwise I'll go over 3 minutes. Councilman Ahmed was one of Ron Rambo's and Ramboland's outspoken fans, so hopefully that doesn't hurt us tonight. We're also very grateful to Mayor Siraji for the letter of support when we applied first to the county. I'll reiterate how inspiring city council meetings are. Like I said last time, I'm like so proud and moved tonight by all the stuff everybody in this room is doing. There's some visuals there if you want to kind of see the imagery of the project. So, what if segregating problems actually exacerbates them? What if climate resilience, local economies, infrastructure funding and maintenance, special needs support, counter displacement, poverty alleviation, wealth generation, sustainability, and community-based education could all be achieved through the same approach, creating compounding benefits between these issues at a modest, safe scale, starting right here in the southeast end of this revolutionary town. Ramboland's exceptional team, made up of both local and international firms, has an impressive record with portfolios including Hudson Yards, NASA, and Google flagship projects. Most of what this project is doing has already been done, usually by one of our team members, but it's never all been done at once and as a demonstration and living lab. The team's pro bono contributions already total the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of dollars. This team is ready to prove that addressing problems holistically could dissolve them rather than struggling to solve them by dragging through what Martin Luther King called the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Incremental progress within fragmented issues is failing us, or at least not saving us fast enough, let alone creating the amazing world we all sense is possible. Paradigm shifts are daunting, but they are clearly necessary. Lancaster has long led implementation of innovations related to societal leaps forward, and this project is a perfect opportunity to advance that legacy. It's a model for how buildings and city blocks can be designed to address today's intersectional challenges. This is the minimum risk way to prove the whole system approach. Beyond these highfalutin concepts, there's a personal story. Ron Rambo has faced a system that denied him real opportunities and even basic safety. Despite setbacks, he remains dedicated, believing if you can't solve a problem, enlarge it. He hopes that improving his quality of life in this way will also create better conditions for others. His journey embodies how local human interest stories and thought leadership and city planning intersect, and when designed in concert, are symbiotic. Help us complete this first phase. Let Ron's home become a legacy platform, paving the way for Lancaster's and many other futures. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? No? Questions from council as a whole?
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I recently got a chance to review this project. Could you remind council, and myself, what the total cost of the project will be?
Yeah, so if we got to do everything that we plan across, the site is essentially the core of the block. And so the house is really a demonstration of what buildings and houses could and should be. But almost everything else outside is a demonstration of what city blocks could be doing for their surrounding properties and neighbors. So the house only would be about $350,000. If we also did the sort of block scale relevant water and energy systems, that'd be another about $250,000 integrated with that house and eventually also neighbors. And then we've also built a farm plan that would be integrated with Deca City Farms, Hawa Lasana's program. And to do that sort of multi-site integrated approach would be another about $600,000. But at that number, it would then be self-sustaining, yielding about 20% of the produce for food insecure citizens, and self-growing to fill other sites and create other Rambo Lands and other Deca City sites.
Thank you for that breakdown.
Sure. And by the way, food's just a great way to turn water into money. And when you've got a bunch of extra renewable energy to pump it around, and when you have to get rid of a bunch of it because of runoff and such, all of that kind of weaving together allows us to solve a bunch of problems at once.
Thank you. Any further questions from council as a whole? From the public?
Oh boy, I've been wrong the whole time. ASAP, right? So we think when we get funding, we can actually build it fairly quickly. So we've hit some kind of inflection point this summer, it feels like. So I'm hopeful that we'll have it funded early next year, and it could be built by summer pretty easily. But again, I've been wrong for years about how fast it'll be.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to move Administration Resolution number 80 to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
The next item on our agenda is Administration Resolution number 81, 2024, authorizing application to local shares account program by YWCA Lancaster. Well, hi.
Hi, Stacy Blake, YWCA Lancaster. I also want to really appreciate my colleagues, anyone who is doing any of these projects, because it is a heavy lift. It's nearly impossible to make the timelines work, to make prevailing wage work, to make the money come together at the right time, and I appreciate everything, because every single project improves the city. And everyone doing it, this is not our real job. So I really want to appreciate my colleagues. And thank you to council. YWCA did receive an LSA award 2 years ago. You might know our project, Y Forward, which is adding 16 low-income housing units within our footprint. Adding about 11 counseling offices on the ground floor that used to be a swimming pool, adding an interior elevator. We are actively under construction for Phase 3, which is all those things I just said. There's jackhammers under my desk, and this proposal will be sort of the aftermath of this elevator. So imagine putting in an elevator inside that old building, all the way up and down, and how it will disrupt one floor in particular, the second floor, which is our childcare. So the space of elevator takes up parts of 2 existing childcare spaces. It's an opportunity to reorganize up there, improve the layout, and that's really going to be the best use for us of this opportunity because of the timeline, because we can't start, of course, with this until it's awarded, which is a year from now. All part of the Y Forward project, which cost $15 million. That was for Tim. And this current phase should end January 26. So that's when I would like to see people moving in.
Thank you. Are there questions from the committee? Any questions from council as a whole? Questions from the public? Thank you. I'll make a motion to move Administration Resolution 81 to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item on our agenda will be our last. It's Administration Resolution number 82, authorizing application to local shares account program by the city of Lancaster. Hello.
Hi, good evening. Cindy McCormick from the Department of Public Works.
I'm here tonight to present on our application for the South End Park. As most of you know, we're working on our Parks Master Plan. Actually, you'll have a presentation at next month's council meeting, so that will be coming. But one of the things that rose to the top was our 3 Southeast parks. Those were our main priorities. Joe Jackson was actually identified as our highest priority, and we are advancing design on actually all 3 parks in that area, Joe Jackson, Newell Gantz, and South End, because we're wanting to align them with funding opportunities coming up. We are not applying for Joe Jackson with this grant because of the timeline that was mentioned earlier in the meeting. We'd like to advance Joe Jackson and Newell Gantz much quicker. So we felt that South End would be a good project for this application. So we did advance the design, conceptual design related to those parks. We did community feedback in June, just soliciting input about what people would like to see at the park. And then concepts were presented in August. So yeah, perfect timing. This is a concept plan that was developed. This park is located at the corner of Beaver and Furnace Street. As most of you know, right now it's a lot of asphalt. It's not ADA accessible. So the concept will provide ADA accessibility, try and maintain as many trees as possible, reorienting the basketball court. Just for the sun, purposes of the sun, optimizing that. Condensing the field into a little bit smaller field, and then also doing a track around it for, it's called a trike track, but also maybe having some embankments and little bumps and things like that in there for skateboarders and bicyclists and scooters. Maintaining the swings, but tucking them back in with some of the existing trees on the top of the page there. A new play structure on the middle of the page in that purple area. Also doing some renovations to the existing building to provide ADA accessible bathrooms, and also create sort of a shade sail adjacent to the building for seating and gathering. And also providing some air conditioning so that it could be used, air conditioning and heating, so it can be used more frequently by the community. And also incorporating water play. That's a major part of a lot of what we're trying to do with a lot of the parks is do some kind of spray pads that are, provide the cooling in the summer, but aren't necessarily need to be manned by, the rec and others, so that it's more accessible to all people during all summer. So yeah, that's
Thank you.
the presentation.
Are there any questions from the committee? No? Questions from council as a whole?
I'm sorry, the budget is $2.5 million. Timeline would be, assuming that we're waiting a year, it would probably be 2026 later, mid to late 2026 for construction.
Thank you. I'll make a motion
Thank you.
to move Administration Resolution 82 to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes community planning, Council President.
Great. Thank you very much, Councilor Craig, and thank you everyone for your presentations this evening. We will now move to the Public Works Committee. Councilor Hurst.
Thank you, Council President. The Public Works Committee has 3 agenda items tonight. The first of which is Administration Resolution number 83, accepting dedication of a water line to the city. Director Stephen Campbell is going to give us some information on that.
Thank you all. Very good to be here again to present this to you. This item is something that is, generally speaking, it turns out this is something that has previously been done in the background. Up anywhere from 1 to 4 of these applications have taken place over the course of a year for the last several years in an effort to be much more transparent and make sure that council is aware of what's going on. We would like to establish as a future process, bringing these to you for your awareness. So this is a case where it's a private development being performed in West Lampeter, just south of, which is behind the municipal facility off Lampeter Road. This is approximately 66 units. Basically, what happens is that the developer, in order to provide the infrastructure for the water access, builds the infrastructure themselves, and then deeds the infrastructure to the city of Lancaster, or dedicates it to the city of Lancaster at no cost to the city, except for the fact of needing to maintain that infrastructure going forward. The design of the work was in coordination with our engineers, and the inspection of the construction was also in concert with our engineers. So we're always confident that what we're receiving as this kind of infrastructure meets or exceeds our standards and is something that we would have no problem receiving. So what this application is to accept the dedication of these water lines. It would add 66 ratepayers to our infrastructure, to our portfolio, which also helps with the overall cost of maintaining the larger infrastructure.
Thank you, Director Campbell. My primary question is, I guess, could you just talk through, the consideration for the city as far as the maintenance obligation and ensuring that the city is taking on additional liability, or is adding revenue that's sufficient to cover on the maintenance liabilities that the city is taking on?
So it is a very good question. The city under our program, under our PUC, is not eligible to charge tap-in fees for new development that attaches to our infrastructure. The rate structure is based on the number of units and the number of ratepayers that gets added in. It's not specifically attached to the actual cost of maintenance. That gets distributed throughout the entirety of the outside city system. So it's not a one-for-one that this is specifically covering the costs of this specific infrastructure, but it does aid in the support of the infrastructure outside the city.
Would the city have the option to not enter into this agreement?
To be perfectly honest, we would not want to not enter into this agreement. We would want to make sure that any water that we're providing continues to meet the standards that we've established and that we've continued to meet. We are integrally involved in the design process as well as the inspection process during its construction. So we're quite not only aware, but satisfied that it meets all of our standards. So it's not a substandard installation that's going on, and it meets the modern design and construction standards. So there's not any reason why we would not want to bring this on. As a matter of fact, it would be useful for us to be able to entertain this, dare I say, a little bit more often, because that allows us to better distribute the costs of maintaining our infrastructure.
Thank you. I will open it up to questions or comments from the committee or from council as a whole. Hearing none, I'll make a motion to move Administration Resolution Number 83, 2024, to our full meeting of council on November 12th.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Our next item is Administration Bill Number 9, authorizing the Traffic Commission to institute a pilot residential parking program. Director Campbell.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity as well. So currently, the Traffic Commission is authorized to establish, change, modify, and reestablish parking meter route zones in the highways and in the public right-of-way. However, as we've explored the needs of the residential parking permit process and brought on the consultants and worked extensively over the course of this last year to get input from the public about what is needed to make adjustments and improvements to the RPP system, one of the solutions that we've identified is to enter into a pilot program. What was not clear to us was whether the Traffic Commission is actually authorized to conduct pilot programs. So what this legislation or what this administrative ordinance is requesting is the authority of the Traffic Commission to be able to conduct and supervise pilot programs. We made a presentation in September, on September 10th, to the public describing what we wanted to do with RPP. There are some administrative changes. There, in fact, are 3 phases to the work to be done. Some administrative changes to be implemented across the board as early as before the end of this year into fiscal 2025. Phase 2 is the pilot for 2025, where we would be looking at, we've identified 2 areas where we would implement the RPP program as described, which is a 2-by-2 block segment, and we would implement the process of designating RPP and determining whether it meets the standards or not. That's linked with the Lancaster Parking Authority's license plate reader system so that we can confirm the current use and confirm future uses of the RPP. And then phase 3, as a result of what we learned from that pilot program, be able to fully implement the program, including processes for delisting some of the RPP as well as adding new as necessary. But because we did not know if we had that authority, it's not clear. We wanted to make sure that it was clear by introducing this ordinance.
Thank you. I will open it up to questions from the Public Works Committee or members of council.
One thing I did want, if I may add one last thing. At that September 10th meeting, it was clear that the public did, in fact, want us to be able to go forward with the RPP. And in fact, at their behest, we in part are doing this process to make sure that we are not stymied by inadvertently doing something that might not have been approved.
Thank you. Any council comments? Council President.
Thank you. Just to say thank you for sort of crossing the T's and dotting the I's on this. Sometimes things are not clear, but it's important that we take we take all the steps to get to where we need to be. So this is an ordinance. We will.
Thank you. We're trying to be much more aware, and especially when we know we've got support from much of the public, we want to make sure we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's.
Any other comments from council? So hearing none, I will hear a motion to, or I'll make a motion to move Administration Bill number 9, 2024 for first reading to our full meeting of council on November 12th. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. And the last item on our agenda for the Public Works Committee this evening is the capital improvement plan overview. I believe Director Stephen Campbell will also be presenting on that.
Yes, hopefully this will be rather brief, but I did want to be able to present to you a primer on capital planning.
And while that's getting set up apropos to capital planning, I just want to bring council's attention to the fact that we have issued a voluntary water conservation notice today
for all of our water distribution area, and would encourage you to help us spread the word related to that. And I'll turn it back over to Steve.
Just as a quick addendum to that, this is because of a regional drought, not a localized drought. So it's not that we are doing anything extraordinary. New York City and other municipalities have also indicated drought measures, water conservation measures.
In fact, 48 of 50 states have some kind of drought advisory in effect, except for Kentucky and Alaska. I
Wow.
just learned today.
So we're in good company. So thank you very much for this opportunity to talk a little bit about our capital planning process. This is just kind of an effort to give a bit of a primer so that there's a way of understanding the capital planning process. Next. First, I just want to start with a few examples of capital investments, such as streets, including trucks, other equipment, and investing infrastructure and paving. Next. Parks, playgrounds and equipment, pools and water infrastructure, as well as green infrastructure. Next. The advanced wastewater treatment plant, as well as the Susquehanna and Conestoga water treatment plants. Next. Firehouses at East and West King Streets, as well as the firefighting equipment itself. These are capital investments. Next. The city's, thank you. The city's water transmission system carries raw water from the Susquehanna River to the Susquehanna Water Treatment Plant, then carries processed water from the Susquehanna Water Treatment Plant to Oyster Point Reservoir for broader distribution. We're making progress replacing the 42-inch main, and as you can see, aging infrastructure is a problem. The designed estimated useful life of this main from 1956 officially ended about 10 years ago. So we're whistling past our graveyard, in a sense, to try to make sure that we continue to work on it. But we're in the process of doing that redundant replacement. Next. And our green infrastructure and work to combat combined sewer overflows, for which the city is well known. Next. So this brief agenda is to talk a little bit about what is capital planning, what is a capital improvement plan, the distinction, what is capital budgeting, and how does capital investments affect city finances. Next. First, capital planning is the process organizations use to determine the long-term investments, the bricks and mortar, and major expenditures that are necessary for continued provision of the service it involves. It includes assessing the needs of the facilities, evaluating and prioritizing capital projects such as infrastructure, equipment, or technology based on a variety of factors in alignment with strategic goals, establishing timeframes for performing the design and construction work, budgeting appropriately, and identifying the funding sources to execute the work. Next. A capital plan looks into the future to identify capital investments in our assets, buildings, infrastructure, and major equipment. It recognizes that any new capital asset has an estimated useful life, and any existing asset has a remaining useful life, or RUL. In developing a capital plan, one looks at all assets and all foreseeable conditions and maps out a long-term plan for new asset creation or existing asset replacement or reinvestment. A capital improvement plan looks more specifically at the near horizon, identifying through independent government estimates or actual designs or even bids what the costs of a project will be and the likely time frame for its execution. The CIP endeavors to identify the sources and amounts of the funding required to execute the project. Next. Capital eligibility. An expenditure is considered capital eligible if it significantly improves, upgrades, or extends the useful life of an asset, allowing it to deliver greater value over time. This can justify borrowing to improve the asset. Often, a low-end limit for capital budget eligibility is established, say, for example, about $20,000. Anything below that limit is generally expected to be paid out of operating funds. If it is a genuinely capital-eligible investment, thus improving the useful life of the facility, but it is small, one might bundle several small capital projects together into a larger capital project. It also needs to address equitable service levels and ensure all neighborhoods receive equitable pavement conditions, access to parks, and other public infrastructure. It requires regular assessment to ensure that they address the needs of all areas fairly. ADA accessibility. It incorporates accessibility standards in all infrastructure projects to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Safety standards. It implements safety assessments for all public right-of-way projects, ensuring that pedestrian, cyclist, and vehicular safety is prioritized. And it includes features like adequate lighting, signage, and crosswalks to improve safety. And water quality assurance, to maintain infrastructure to deliver clean and safe drinking water, adhering to regulatory standards. Next. Work that the city has done over the last few years to have a better understanding of our assets includes implementing a facility condition assessment program for our vertical infrastructure, the buildings, which is a comprehensive evaluation of building conditions, identification of maintenance needs and improvement areas. Similarly, in parallel, there's been a facility condition assessment for horizontal infrastructure, assessment of roads, sidewalks, water distribution and sewer collection, and other public infrastructure. This is an ongoing FCA process with prioritization of repair and replacement projects. In the process of implementing our work order management system, which you may have heard of, called CityWorks, we are streamlining tracking of maintenance requests and work orders, and we have enhanced efficiency in responding to facility needs, partly through the Fix-It program. And last, the long-term planning exercises requiring strategic planning sessions for asset management, development of a roadmap for future investments and improvements. Next. With that understanding of the conditions of our assets and needs to be fulfilled, we then prioritize. Prioritizing projects in a capital plan involves a systematic approach to evaluate and rank potential investments based on several criteria. Here are some common steps and factors to consider: the return on investment, such as potential financial returns from the project, strategic alignment, how well the project supports organizational goals, risk assessment, potential risk mitigation and uncertainties associated with the project, compliance, the necessity of meeting regulatory or legal requirements, and impact on operations, the effect on current processes and efficiency. With those priorities in mind, we then establish timeframes for execution of each project based on the above criteria. Next. So having a better understanding of what a capital plan is, what is a capital budget? Once a prioritized list of projects is established, you establish the budget to fulfill the work. A capital plan allocates funds for long-term investments in infrastructure and assets. In short, the capital plan drives the capital budget. The purpose, it focuses on expenditures that will benefit the community over multiple years on the prioritized schedule, such as buildings, roads, parks, utility transmission, fleet equipment, which we call rolling stock. Next. What a capital budget is not, it is not an operating budget. It does not cover day-to-day operating expenses such as salaries, utilities, and routine maintenance. Those are in the general fund and the operating budget. It is not short-term focused. It avoids looking at short-term needs such as repairs or smaller expenditures. It is not reactive. It is not a reactive tool. It requires a proactive planning and foresight process, not responding to immediate financial needs or crises. And it is not informal or unstructured. A capital budget is a formal, structured plan that requires careful analysis and justification based on criteria, unlike informal or ad hoc funding requests. Next. The financial basics of capital planning include the estimated costs, which is the detailed projections for each project, including materials, labor, and overhead. This is usually determined with what's called an independent government estimate, or IGE, or scoped budget figure, or, if it's gone far enough in the process, actual bids from a specific design. It tries to understand the funding sources and the breakdown of potential funding options such as local taxes, bond issues, debt limits, state and federal grants, public and private partnerships. There's an impact assessment, the evaluation of how each project will affect the community, both financially and socially. Maintenance costs, consideration of ongoing costs associated with new projects after completion, and revenue projections, the anticipation of income generated by new projects, for example, increased utility rates for infrastructure put into service. Next. How capital investments affect city budget and ratepayers. Two primary core areas for consideration are debt service, which is the amount required to cover interest and principal repayments on borrowed funds, the impact of capital investments, which are large capital projects often requiring borrowing, which increase debt service costs, and long-term planning. Higher debt service can limit funding available for other services or projects. And a selfless plug, Home Rule gives us a greater flexibility in addressing this debt service. The other category is utility rates, which are the charges for services like water and wastewater. The impact of capital investments in infrastructure can lead to increased utility rates to cover debt service for utilities. And then the justification for increases, new or improved infrastructure can improve service quality, making rate increases more acceptable to the community. It is also often based on requirements or mandates, whether funded or not. Next. So this is just a preliminary primer on the capital planning process and the budget, how the budget relates to that capital planning process. On November 14th, there'll be a special presentation to talk about the capital budget in more specific terms, the overview of capital projects, the regulatory impacts of prioritization, some of the estimated costs, impacts on debt and ratepayers, and the potential funding sources. So I'm hoping that this gives you a better foundation and understanding. In the very, very long-term process, our hope would be that we could aspire to something called participatory budgeting. We're nowhere near that yet, but it does require, not only at the council level, but at the public level, having an understanding of the processes, the things that can be changed, and the things that cannot be changed in order to make those priorities appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Kenneth, for the presentation. That concludes Public Works Committee.
Thank you. Just before you leave, Director Campbell, I just want to say thank you for sort of setting the table for the upcoming presentation. And, gosh, where did we begin? The fact that we're doing all of this work speaks volumes to you and all of the people that worked on this to get to this point, but also speaks to the careful management of our infrastructure and assets in the city of Lancaster. And I'm eager to learn more about the plan. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that. We're very eager to be able to present it to you as well. There are a number of things coming on the horizon that we all need to be aware of. many of which are huge impacts, and they are currently unfunded mandates that must be met in one form or another. And being able to have some flexibility on how to meet those goals is part of what we're all looking for.
Thank you.
Council President, if I may.
Yes.
Another just reference point to home rule. So if the home rule charter would pass tomorrow, I can't believe it's tomorrow, Election Day, this process of having a capital budget will be institutionalized in city government in a way that it has not historically. And it has taken many years for Director Campbell and his team to assemble the capital plan across all facets of city assets. Just completing the facility condition assessment, I think, was a 24-month process from issuing an RFP to selecting a vendor to them actually going out and
Doing the assessments.
yeah, doing the individual assessments. So this has been a very long project that we have been working on, and I think the piece that I just want to give a shout out to the other Director Campbell, Tina, who has been we've really been looking at affordability for city residents, and I'm going to be talking about that a lot next year as it relates to unfunded mandates. But I think it's important for council to also understand overall debt service and a debt policy, which the city does not have, which is something that we're going to talk about as well as we move into more discussion about debt as it relates to our enterprise funds, which have fees for service that pays for them, versus general fund, which is all tax-based.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, last item on the agenda is the clerk's report. Mr. Harris, you've submitted that in writing to all members of council, is that right?
I have, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Then have reached the end of our agenda. One item, tomorrow is Election Day. I may be speaking to the choir in this room, but if you haven't turned in your mail-in ballot, it's too late, so take it to your polling location and go vote. Polls are open until 8 p.m. tomorrow. I will hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Oh, heavens. Early tomorrow. You know what? The last 2 hours has been a welcome distraction. It has. In my head. I will tell you that much. We don't do that. No.
Some people do.
When they threaten people or are they?
Are you covering,
Wait, is that a quote?
United all the way through the end of December?
Why do you ask?
Because I want to know if you're going to come and edge it all the way to the end.
You guys are gonna pass it by like the 18th.
Yeah.
We're taking off the last 2 years, or the last 2 weeks.
2 years.
It feels like years, doesn't it?
So you built that much PTO up.
That you just said? Is that a direct quote from someone? Paraphrased or?
Paraphrased.
Okay.
You're a disgrace, you're disgusting, those are direct quotes.
Oh, okay.
Directed to Hillary. They're a lot angrier.
Sure. Well, that sucks.
But,
honestly, that just sucks.
Really unhinged.
My thought is